"Go ahead, Daisy," Papa said. "Make a wish. After all, you were the one that found it." "Go ahead, Daisy," I said. "Make a wish. You found it." I knew what my wish was going to be. That was no problem. I was going to wish that I could catch those monkeys, make all that money, and get a pony and a 22. Daisy smiled. "All right," she said, "I will." She closed her eyes and said, "Let's see now. What can I wish for? What can I wish for?" Then clapping her hands together to show her delight, she said, "I know what I'll wish for. I know exactly what I'll wish for." Just before Daisy stepped in the center of the ring to make her wish, she turned her head and looked straight at me. Her blue eyes were as bright as the morning star, and a warm smile tugged at her lips. When I saw my little sister kneeling in the center of that snow-white circle and that old crutch laying on the ground beside her, I forgot about ponies and 22s. I wanted my little sister to get that old leg of hers fixed up. I wanted that more than anything I'd ever wanted in my life. That was going to be my wish. Once I made up my mind, I felt pretty good about it. In fact, I had never felt better in my life. I looked at Mama and Papa. They were watching Daisy as she knelt in the center of the fairy ring. I had never seen such tender, longing looks on their faces. I was pretty sure I knew what their wishes were going to be. They were going to wish for the same thing I was. Mama and Papa tried to get me to make the second wish, but I out-argued them. I told them that I wanted to be last. All my life I'd been wishing for things, everything you could think of. I'd made 1,000,000 wishes, but the morning I knelt in the center of the fairy ring, I wished harder than I had ever before. I put all my heart and soul in that wish. After we'd made our wishes and were standing there looking at the fairy ring, Mama said in a low voice, "I've been hoping and wishing for so long. I hope the good fairy grants me this one wish, just this one wish." "Don't tell anyone what you wish," Daisy said. "If you do, the wish won't come true." "Well," Papa said, "it looks like we've done about all we can here, and there's a lot of work to be done. All we can do now is wait and see if our wishes come true." Mama looked up at the sun. She said, "It's time I start fixing dinner." "I'll help you, Mama," Daisy said. "I can clean my playhouse later today. It's a little too wet now anyway." We hadn't taken 10 steps down the trail when I noticed that Rowdy wasn't with us. I turned around to see where he was, and was just in time to see him step very gently over the little toadstools in the fairy ring. He dropped his old nose to the ground and started sniffing around. "Rowdy," I said in a hard voice, "you get out of there. You're going to step on those toadstools and mash them in the ground." Rowdy didn't budge an inch. He sat down on his rear and looked straight at me. He whimpered a few times and his old tail wagged all over the place. Daisy giggled. "Leave him alone, Jayberry," she said. "Don't you know what he's doing?" "Sure I know what he's doing," I said. "He's trying to figure out what we were doing in the fairy ring. He's just nosy." "No, he's not nosy," Daisy said. "He's making a wish just like we did. That's what he's doing." "Ah, Daisy," I said, "what are you saying? Who ever heard of a dog making a wish? Dogs don't do things like that." Mom and Papa had turned around and were watching Rowdy. Both of them were smiling. "Jayberry," Mama said, "maybe Rowdy's making a wish. Sure looks like he is." Papa chuckled. "That old hound is smart," he said. "I'm not surprised at anything he does. I've seen him do things I couldn't believe." "He's smart, all right," I said. "If I'm digging fishing worms, he'll start digging holes in the ground. He tries to do everything I do." Papa laughed. "Does he ever pick up a worm and put it in a can?" he asked. I smiled and said, "No, I've tried to get him to do that, but he won't have anything to do with worms." Just then Rowdy came bounding out of the fairy ring. He came to me, reared up, and put his paws on my shoulders. When Rowdy reared up on me like that, he was just about the same height as I was, and there was no way I could dodge his lapping tongue. He lapped me on the neck and ears and all the way up and down my face. He even pushed my old straw hat off my head and lapped me a few times up there. I loved him and squeezed him and scratched behind his ears. He liked that. "Rowdy, if you did make a wish," I said, "I bet I know what you wished for, a big bone or a meat rind." Oh, how I love that old hound dog of mine. Daisy was smiling. "I don't think Rowdy wished for a bone or a meat rind," she said. "I bet he wished those monkeys would disappear." Both Mama and Papa were laughing as they started down the trail again, ahead of Daisy and me. Papa was carrying the pitchfork in his left hand, and his right arm was around Mama's waist. We heard him say to Mama, "Did you notice how still it was there at the fairy ring?" "Yes, I did," Mama said, "and I couldn't understand it. I've never seen the hills so quiet. You can always hear something." "Mama," Daisy said, "I know why it was so still there at the fairy ring." Oh, Mama said, glancing back at Daisy. Why? Because the old man of the mountains was there, Daisy said. That's why. Ah, Daisy, I said, you're always seeing things. I never saw any old man. Did you see anyone, Mama? No, Mama said, I didn't see anyone, but I did have a strange feeling. Maybe the silence had something to do with it. I felt that something was watching us, something I couldn't see. I think we all felt something, Papa said. I know I did. Jay Berry, Daisy said, just because you didn't see the old man in the mountains doesn't mean that he wasn't there. He was there, all right. He's always there. If you ever believed anything in your life, you can believe that. Just then an old white leghorn hen came sailing out of our hen house, flapping her wings and cackling her head off. I knew that she had just laid an egg, and it probably tickled her half to death. It always did. The cackling hen seemed to awaken the silent hills. Birds started singing, squirrels started chirring, and chipmunks started squeaking. In the underbrush close to the trail I saw a little wren. It was hopping around and chirping. I wondered if it was the same wren I'd seen in the red oak tree. Papa stopped and started looking around at the hills. With a smile on his face, he said, "Now this is more like it. This is the way it's supposed to be. If you take the music out of these hills, they're not the same." Just as we reached the house, Mama turned to Daisy and said, "Why don't you go to the garden and pick some fresh tomatoes and cucumbers? We'll have them for dinner." "Sure, Mama," Daisy said. "After that rain last night, I bet we can find some dandies." Papa and I went to the blacksmith shop to finish our work. While Papa and I were working, I kept thinking about the fairy ring and the wishes we had made. I couldn't get them out of my mind. "Papa," I said as I stopped turning the handle on the blower, "do you believe that the wishes we made at the fairy ring will come true?" Papa didn't answer me right away, but I could see by the expression on his face that he was having trouble finding the right words. Then looking at me, he said, "Son, that's a pretty hard question to answer, but I do believe that any wish you make can come true if you help the wish. I don't think that the Lord meant for our lives to be so simple and easy that every time we wanted something, all we had to do was wish for it and we'd get it. I don't believe that at all. If that were true, there would be a lot of lazy people in this old world. No one would be working. Everyone would be wishing for what they needed or wanted." "Papa," I said, "how can you help a wish?" "Oh, there are a lot of ways," Papa said. "Hard work, faith, patience, determination. I think that prayer and really believing in your wish can help more than anything else." "I sure hope the wish I made in the fairy ring comes true," I said. "I'll do everything I can to help it." After Papa had explained about helping wishes, I still had one more thing I wanted to ask him. "Papa, has Daisy said anything to you about the old man in the mountains?" I asked. "No, Daisy hasn't said anything to me about him," Papa said, "but your mother has." "Do you believe that she really sees that old man?" I asked. Papa frowned as if he were in deep thought. Before he answered, he laid his hammer down on the anvil, turned and started stirring up the fire in the forge. "Yes, son," he said, "I believe that Daisy does see the old man in the mountains. It may be just her imagination, but I believe that she does see something. There's one thing I know. All little children who are crippled can see things and hear things that you and I can never see or hear. I think the Lord has something to do with this. It could be his way of showing them mercy." "That's what Mama told me," I said. She thinks that the old man in the mountains is a spirit. Do you think he's a spirit?" Papa thought a second. "Your mother could be right," he said. "What Daisy is seeing could be the spirit of Christ. Lots of people have seen his spirit, especially those who are in pain or deep trouble. It happens every day somewhere in the world." I was so startled by what Papa had said I couldn't say a word. I even got a little scared. Right then I decided that I never again would tell my little sister that she wasn't seeing the old man of the mountains. I was thinking about the way Daisy had described the old man to me when she poked her head out the back door and yelled, "Come and get it, or we'll feed it to the chickens." Papa chuckled. "It looks like we better go in for some dinner, or we won't get any," he said.